The USB drive sat on my kitchen counter like a loaded gun. I stared at it while my coffee went cold, wondering how Mrs. Kavanaugh had gotten inside my house to leave it there. The note beside it was written in her careful nurse's handwriting. "You need to see this before it's too late. Your neighbor who actually gives a damn." Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. My name is Beckett Shaw, and up until that Tuesday morning in March, I thought I had a pretty good handle on my life. 41 years old, former military interrogations instructor, turned security consultant, married to Nora for 8 years, father to 7-year-old Stella, who meant everything to me. We lived in a modest 2-story house in Buffalo's suburbs, the kind of neighborhood where everyone knows your business but pretends they don't. I should have known something was wrong when I came back from my 3-day consulting trip to Pittsburgh and got a warmer welcome from airport security than from my own wife. "How was the trip?" Nora had asked without looking up from her phone, not even bothering to get off the couch. "Fantastic. The TSA agent who searched my bag asked more questions about my day than you just did." She'd rolled her eyes. "Don't be dramatic, Beck. I'm tired. Some of us had to deal with real life while you were playing soldier with corporate executives." That stung, but it wasn't new. Nora had been taking shots at my military background for months, claiming I was married to the army, not her. Never mind that I'd left active duty 6 years ago specifically to be home more for our family. Stella had been different, though. My little girl usually ran to the door when I came home, but that night she'd barely looked up from her coloring book. "Hey, princess. Daddy missed you." "Hi, Daddy." Her voice was small, distracted. "What are you drawing?" "Uncle Joel said I have to practice staying inside the lines or I'm being bad." Uncle Joel. That would be Joel Kessler, the handyman who'd been doing odd jobs around our house for the past few months. 36 years old, built like he'd spent his life swinging hammers, with the kind of rugged charm that made married women in our neighborhood suddenly discover things that needed fixing. "Uncle Joel's not your uncle, sweetheart. He's just helping Mommy with some repairs." Nora had finally looked up from her phone then. "Joel's been great with Stella. She needs more discipline than you give her." I'd let it slide. Mistake number 1 in a long list I was about to discover. Over the next few weeks, I noticed things. Joel's beat-up Ford pickup in our driveway more often than seemed necessary for the minor repairs we'd discussed. Nora's sudden interest in yoga classes that seemed to happen whenever I was home. Her phone constantly buzzing with texts she'd quickly hide when I walked into the room. "Who keeps texting you?" I'd asked one evening. "Just Mandy and Trish, girl stuff. You wouldn't be interested." Mandy Chen was Nora's enabler, the kind of friend who'd help you rationalize any bad decision. Trish Williams was judgmental and secretly jealous of anyone who seemed happier than her. Together, they formed Nora's personal echo chamber of terrible advice. The gossip network in our neighborhood was more efficient than military intelligence. Mrs. Kavanaugh, our 62-year-old retired nurse neighbor, had tried to hint at things a few times. "That Joel fellow certainly spends a lot of time at your place," she'd mentioned while I was checking the mail. "Yeah, well, old houses need a lot of work." And I'm sure Nora appreciates having such attentive help while you're traveling." I should have paid more attention to the way she'd said attentive. But I was busy with work, traveling twice a month for security consultations, trying to build something stable for my family. I'd convinced myself that Nora's coldness was just a phase, that her complaints about my military background were just her way of processing stress from her job teaching preschool. Then came the night I heard Stella crying in her room. "What's wrong, princess?" "Uncle Joel was mean to me today." "Mean how?" "He made me stand outside in the snow because I spilled juice on the table. Mommy said it was discipline and I shouldn't tell you because you don't understand how to raise kids right." I kept my voice calm. How long did you have to stand outside? I don't know. A long time. My feet got really cold. I'd tucked her in and gone straight to Nora, who was in our bedroom scrolling through Facebook. Did Joel make Stella stand outside in the snow today? It wasn't that cold, and she needs to learn consequences. You're too soft on her, Beck. That's why she acts out. She's 7 years old, Nora. Making a kid stand outside in March in Buffalo isn't discipline, it's abuse. Don't be so dramatic. Joel knows about kids. He's helped raise his nephew. Joel doesn't have any authority over our daughter. Well, maybe if you were here more instead of playing army man with your clients, you'd have more say in how she's raised. That fight had ended with me sleeping on the couch and Nora slamming the bedroom door. The next morning, she'd acted like nothing happened, making breakfast and chatting about her plans for the day as if we hadn't just argued about our daughter being mistreated. I should have pushed harder then. Should have demanded answers, set boundaries, done something. But I'd been raised to avoid conflict at home, to keep the peace. My own father had been military, gone more than he was home, and I'd sworn I wouldn't repeat his mistakes. Turned out I was making entirely different mistakes. Now, staring at that USB drive, I realized Mrs. Kavanaugh had been trying to help me see what I'd been too stubborn or too scared to acknowledge. My marriage was falling apart, my wife was having an affair, and my daughter was caught in the middle, being hurt by people who were supposed to protect her. I plugged the drive into my laptop. The security footage was time-stamped from 3 days ago, when I'd been in Pittsburgh. Mrs. Kavanaugh's camera had a clear view of our backyard, and what I saw made my hands shake with rage. Joel, dragging Stella outside in just her pajamas and socks, making her stand against the back fence while he pointed at her and yelled. Nora, watching from the kitchen window doing nothing. Stella, crying and shivering, her little arms wrapped around herself. The timestamp showed she'd been out there for 23 minutes in 38-degree weather. I watched it 3 times, my military training kicking in, analyzing every detail. This wasn't discipline. This was cruelty. And my wife had allowed it to happen. But what really broke something inside me was the end of the video. After Joel finally let Stella come inside, I watched him put his hands on my wife's waist and kiss her. Right there in our kitchen, with our daughter probably still crying upstairs. I sat back in my chair, staring at the frozen image on my screen. The husband who'd walked into this kitchen an hour ago had been trying to save his marriage, wondering what he'd done wrong, how he could fix things. That man was gone. What replaced him was someone much more dangerous. Someone who'd spent years learning how to break people down, how to find their weaknesses and exploit them, how to plan operations that left no room for error. Nora and Joel had made the mistake of thinking I was just some washed-up soldier who traveled for work and didn't pay attention to his family. They'd underestimated me completely. They were about to learn that the most dangerous enemy is the one you don't see coming. I ejected the USB drive and slipped it into my pocket. Then I picked up my phone and started making calls. Not to Nora, not to Joel, not to anyone who might tip them off. I called my lawyer. I called Child Protective Services. I called the police non-emergency line to ask about filing a report, and then I called Carl Martinez, my old army buddy who worked private security in town. Because if I was going to war, I needed someone watching my 6. Beck? What's wrong, man? You sound like you're about to eliminate someone. Not eliminatel, Carl. Destroy. There's a difference. The next morning, I played the role of oblivious husband with Academy Award precision. Morning, beautiful, I said to Nora as she rushed around the kitchen, getting Stella ready for school. Sleep well? She barely glanced at me. Fine. Can you drop Stella off? I have an early meeting with the principal about the spring program. Interesting. According to the school calendar I'd checked online at 5 a.m., there were no meetings scheduled today, but I just smiled and ruffled Stella's hair. Of course. Come on, princess. Let's get you to school. In the car, I kept my voice casual. Stella, You know you can tell Daddy anything, right? Even if someone says not to? She nodded, buckling her seatbelt. Uncle Joel said I shouldn't tell you things because it makes you angry and angry daddies leave their families. My knuckles went white on the steering wheel, but I kept my tone light. Uncle Joel doesn't know Daddy very well. I might get angry at people who hurt you, but I would never leave you. Never. Do you understand? Yes, Daddy. Good. Now, has Uncle Joel hurt you any other times, besides making you stand outside? She was quiet for a long moment. He grabbed my arm really hard when I dropped my sandwich, and he told Mommy I was being a brat and needed to learn respect. Did Mommy see him grab your arm? Yeah. She said I shouldn't have been clumsy. I pulled into the school parking lot and sat there for a moment, watching other parents drop off their kids, normal families doing normal things, none of them knowing that the guy in the Honda next to them was documenting child abuse and planning to destroy his marriage. Stella, I need you to do something for Daddy, okay? If Uncle Joel or anyone else hurts you or makes you do something that feels wrong, I want you to tell Mrs. Peterson right away. Mrs. Peterson was her teacher, a sharp woman in her 50s who'd raised 3 kids of her own. But Mommy said, forget what Mommy said about this. Daddy is telling you now, and this is more important. Tell Mrs. Peterson, and she'll call Daddy. Can you do that for me? Okay, Daddy. I walked her to the classroom, had a brief conversation with Mrs. Peterson about keeping an eye on things, and headed back home. Nora's car was gone, which meant she was either at that fictional meeting or somewhere else entirely. Time to do some reconnaissance. I'd learned a few things during my years in military intelligence. First, people are creatures of habit, and those habits make them predictable. Second, everyone leaves digital footprints, especially when they think no one is looking. Third, the best way to catch someone in a lie is to let them keep lying until they contradict themselves. Nora had gotten sloppy with her phone security. She used the same 4-digit code for everything, Stella's birth month and day. I'd watched her enter it dozens of times without thinking about it. Her text messages were a gold mine. Nora to Mandy, 9:47 a.m. Beck's being weird this morning, more attentive than usual. Mandy to Nora, 9:52 a.m. Maybe he suspects something? You've been pretty obvious lately. Nora to Mandy, 9:54 a.m. He's too clueless. Besides, he's gone half the time anyway. Joel and I just need to be more careful. Mandy to Nora, 9:58 a.m. What about Stella? She's going to say something eventually. Nora to Mandy, 10:03 a.m. Joel's handling that. She's learning not to run to Daddy with every little thing. Handling that. My daughter was a problem to be handled. I screenshot everything and sent it to my secure email account, then kept digging. The Facebook messages were even worse. Nora to Trish, 2 weeks ago. Beck's in Pittsburgh again. Joel's coming over to fix the bathroom faucet. Trish to Nora. Girl, you're playing with fire. What if he finds out? Nora to Trish. He won't. He's too busy playing soldier boy with his corporate clients. Besides, Joel's amazing with Stella. Better than Beck, honestly. Kids need structure. Trish to Nora. Structure is one thing, but making her stand outside seems harsh. Nora to Trish. She needs to learn consequences. Beck spoils her. Joel understands that kids need discipline to respect authority. I had to put the phone down and walk away. My wife wasn't just cheating on me. She was actively enabling someone to abuse our daughter and justifying it as good parenting. But I wasn't done collecting evidence. I drove to Joel's neighborhood, a rundown area about 10 minutes from our house. His truck was in the driveway of a small rental house that looked like it hadn't seen maintenance in years. Ironic, considering he made his living fixing other people's homes. I parked across the street and called the number on his business card, which was stuck to our refrigerator. Kessler Handyman Services. Hi, this is Mike Thompson. I live over on Elmwood, and I heard you do good work. I've got a bathroom that needs some tile repair. Are you available this afternoon? I'm pretty booked up this week. Maybe next week? That's too bad. My neighbor recommended you specifically. Said you'd been doing great work at the Shaw place on Maple Street. There was a pause. Yeah, Beck and Nora are good people. Look, let me check my schedule and call you back. Sure thing. Oh, and my neighbor mentioned you're great with kids too. That's important to us since we have a 7-year-old. Another pause, longer this time. Yeah, kids need structure. A lot of parents these days are too soft, but I can help with that. Excellent. We believe in discipline too. After I hung up, I sat in my car making notes. Joel was actively marketing himself as someone who could provide discipline for other people's children. How many other families was he targeting? How many other kids like Stella? My phone buzzed with a text from Carl. Carl. Got that background check you wanted. Joel Kessler has 2 domestic violence arrests, both dismissed when the women dropped charges. Also a complaint filed with the Better Business Bureau for inappropriate behavior with a client's teenage daughter. Nothing prosecuted, but pattern is there. Perfect. I screenshot that too. By the time I picked up Stella from school, I had enough evidence to bury both Nora and Joel, but I wasn't ready to play that card yet. I wanted them to feel secure, to keep making mistakes, to dig themselves deeper. How was school, princess? Good. Mrs. Peterson asked if everything was okay at home. What did you tell her? I said Uncle Joel was teaching me discipline, but sometimes it hurt. She said she wanted to talk to you. That's perfect, Stella. You did exactly right. Mrs. Peterson was waiting by the classroom door when I walked in. She was a veteran teacher with sharp eyes and no patience for nonsense. Mr. Shaw, could I speak with you privately? We stepped into the hallway while Stella gathered her backpack. Stella mentioned someone named Uncle Joel has been disciplining her. She seemed uncomfortable talking about it. Joel Kessler. He's a handyman who's been doing work at our house. I wasn't aware he was taking it upon himself to discipline my daughter. She mentioned standing outside in the cold and someone grabbing her arm hard enough to leave marks. My jaw tightened. Marks? Faint bruising on her upper arm. I documented it with photos as required by school policy. Mr. Shaw, I'm mandated to report suspected child abuse. I understand. And I appreciate you looking out for Stella. I'm already taking steps to address the situation. She studied my face carefully. Are you safe at home, Mr. Shaw? Sometimes these situations are complicated. I'm fine, Mrs. Peterson, but Stella's safety is my only priority right now. Good, because that little girl adores you. Whatever's happening at home, she needs to know her father is protecting her. Driving home, I felt the weight of responsibility settling on my shoulders. This wasn't just about my marriage anymore, or even about revenge. This was about protecting my daughter from people who saw her as an inconvenience to be managed through fear and intimidation. Nora was home when we arrived, cooking dinner like she was auditioning for Mother of the Year. How was everyone's day? She asked brightly. Great, I said. Stella's teacher wanted to chat about how well she's adjusting to having Joel around the house. I watched Nora's face carefully. There it was, just a flicker of panic before she recovered. Oh? What did she say? Just that Stella's been talking about Uncle Joel's discipline methods. Mrs. Peterson was very interested in hearing more details. Nora's smile faltered. I'm sure it's nothing. Stella sometimes exaggerates. Does she? Because Mrs. Peterson seemed to think it was serious enough to document. Document what? The bruises on Stella's arm. The wooden spoon in Nora's hand clattered to the floor. Those are from when she fell off her bike. Stella doesn't have a bike, Nora. We talked about getting her one for her birthday next month, remember? She bent to pick up the spoon, her hands shaking slightly. I meant her scooter. She fell off her scooter. When? I don't remember exactly. Last week sometime. Funny thing about bruises, Nora. They age in predictable patterns. Mrs. Peterson knows that. So do the people I called today. What people? I smiled at her, the same smile I'd used on enemy combatants who thought they were smarter than me. The kind of people who take child abuse seriously. That night, after Stella was asleep, Nora tried to talk to me. She found me in my home office, updating my case files. Beck, I think there's been a misunderstanding. Has there? Joel would never hurt Stella. He's been trying to help her learn boundaries. By making her stand outside in 38-degree weather for 23 minutes. Her face went white. How did you know about that? Nora, I spent years in intelligence. Did you really think I wouldn't figure out what was happening in my own house? She sat down heavily in the chair across from my desk. It's not what you think. Really? Then explain to me what I should think about my wife having an affair with a man who abuses our daughter. I'm not having an affair. I turned my laptop screen toward her. The Facebook messages were displayed in all their damning glory. She stared at the screen for a long moment, then looked up at me with tears in her eyes. Beck, I can explain. I'm sure you can. You always were good at explaining things, like how it's my fault you're unhappy because I travel for work, or how it's my fault Stella needs discipline because I'm too soft on her, or how it's my fault you needed to find comfort with another man because I'm married to the army instead of you. That's not fair. You know what's not fair, Nora? A 7-year-old girl getting grabbed hard enough to leave bruises because she dropped a sandwich. A little girl being told her father will abandon her if she tells him the truth. A man working his ass off to provide for his family while his wife destroys everything he's trying to build. She was crying now, but I felt nothing. The woman I'd loved was gone, replaced by someone I didn't recognize. What are you going to do? She whispered. I closed the laptop and looked at her directly. I'm going to protect my daughter. Everything else is just collateral damage. The next morning I was having coffee with my lawyer at 7 a.m. Jennifer Hayes was the kind of attorney other lawyers feared in court, sharp as a scalpel and twice as precise. She'd handled my military discharge paperwork years ago and had been waiting for me to call about a divorce ever since. You've been thorough, she said, reviewing the evidence I'd compiled. Text messages, social media posts, witness statements, photographic evidence of abuse, background checks. This isn't just a custody case, Beck. This is a criminal matter. I know, but I want to handle this strategically. If I come out swinging, Nora might run with Stella. I need to make sure she can't take my daughter anywhere. Smart. We'll file for emergency custody today, but we'll do it quietly. No advance warning. How much does your wife know about what you've discovered? She knows I'm aware of the affair and the abuse, but she doesn't know how much evidence I have or what I'm planning. Jennifer smiled grimly. Good. Let her think she can still control the narrative. Meanwhile, we'll be 3 steps ahead. By 9 a.m., we were at the courthouse filing paperwork. By 10, I was at the police station giving a statement about child abuse. By 11, I was meeting with a CPS investigator who looked like she'd seen every kind of family nightmare imaginable. Mr. Shaw, said investigator Patricia Williams, these are serious allegations. We'll need to interview your daughter, your wife, and this Joel Kessler person. I understand. I just want Stella protected. That's our priority, too. In the meantime, I'm recommending that Mr. Kessler have no unsupervised contact with your daughter. What about my wife? She allowed this to happen. Patricia's expression hardened. We'll be having a very thorough conversation with Mrs. Shaw about her parenting decisions. I left the CPS office feeling like I'd finally taken action instead of just reacting, but I wasn't done. Joel Kessler was about to learn that there are consequences for hurting children. I drove to Home Depot, where I knew Joel bought his supplies. Sure enough, his beat-up Ford was in the parking lot. I found him in the plumbing aisle, looking at pipe fittings. Joel, good to see you, buddy. He turned around, and I saw the exact moment he recognized me. His face went from confused to guilty to defensive in about 3 seconds. Oh, hey, Beck, how's it going? Great, actually, really great. Hey, I wanted to thank you for all your help around the house, especially with Stella. Sure. No problem. I stepped closer, lowering my voice, but making sure the other customers could still hear. I mean, not every man would take such a personal interest in disciplining another man's child. That takes real dedication. Joel's eyes darted around nervously. I was just trying to help out while you were traveling. Oh, I know exactly what kind of help you were providing. Standing outside in the cold, grabbing her hard enough to leave bruises. That's some real hands-on parenting right there. A woman shopping nearby had stopped pretending to look at faucets and was openly listening now. Joel's face was turning red. Look, man, I think there's been a misunderstanding. Has there? Because my daughter doesn't seem confused about what happened. Neither does her teacher, or the police officer I spoke with this morning, or the CPS investigator who's very interested in meeting you. CPS? His voice cracked slightly. Oh yeah, they love cases like this. Grown man with a history of domestic violence targeting a vulnerable child while having an affair with the mother. It's like a greatest hits album of predatory behavior. The woman who'd been eavesdropping was now pulling out her phone, probably to call someone about the drama unfolding in aisle 7. Joel tried to push past me. I don't have to listen to this. I didn't move. You're right, you don't, but you will listen to this. If you come within 100 yards of my daughter again, if you contact my wife, if you even drive down my street, I will make your life a living hell. Do you understand me? You threatening me? I smiled, the same cold smile I'd perfected during interrogations. Joel, I spent years learning how to break people who were a lot tougher and smarter than you. I know where you live, where you work, who your clients are, and exactly what kind of man you really are. I'm not threatening you. I'm educating you about your new reality. He tried to stare me down, but I'd faced enemy soldiers who were actually dangerous. Joel was just a coward who picked on children. This isn't over, he muttered. You're absolutely right. It's not over. It's just getting started. I stepped aside and let him leave, but not before I made sure every customer in that aisle had heard our conversation. By evening, half the neighborhood would know that Joel Kessler was being investigated for child abuse. My phone was buzzing with texts by the time I got home. Carl. Heard you had a chat with your boy Joel at Home Depot. Mrs. Rodriguez from down the street said it was better than cable TV. Mrs. Kavanaugh. Saw Joel's truck speeding out of the neighborhood like his tail was on fire. Everything okay? Jennifer, lawyer. Emergency custody hearing scheduled for tomorrow at 2 p.m. Judge reviewed preliminary evidence and is taking this seriously. But the most interesting text came from a number I didn't recognize. Unknown. This is Joel. You made a big mistake today. I know people. This isn't over. I screenshot the text and forwarded it to Jennifer and the police detective handling Stella's case. Threatening messages were just more evidence of Joel's character. Then I called the number back. Joel, this is Beck. Thanks for the text. I've already forwarded it to my lawyer and the police. Keep them coming if you want. Every threat you make just strengthens my case. You son of a... Careful, Joel. You're already looking at potential charges for child abuse. Do you really want to add harassment and threats to the list? The line went quiet for a moment. Then, I never hurt that kid. I was just trying to teach her respect. By making her stand outside in freezing weather? By grabbing her hard enough to leave bruises? That's not teaching respect, Joel. That's abuse. And you did it because you thought her father was too stupid or too absent to notice. Nora said you didn't care about discipline. Nora said a lot of things, apparently. But here's what I'm saying. Stay away from my family. Find a new neighborhood to work in. Find new clients. Find a new life that doesn't involve my wife or my daughter. Or what? Or you'll discover just how creative I can get when someone threatens my family. I hung up and immediately called Jennifer to report the conversation. Then I called the detective. Then I called CPS. Every interaction with Joel was going to be documented and reported. Nora was waiting for me when I got home, pacing around the kitchen like a caged animal. What did you do? She demanded. I had a conversation with Joel about appropriate boundaries with children. He called me crying, Beck. He said you humiliated him in public and threatened him. Did he mention why I might have done that? This is insane. You're destroying people's lives over a misunderstanding. I stared at her. Nora, he made our daughter stand outside in near-freezing weather for almost half an hour. He grabbed her hard enough to leave bruises. He told her that reporting abuse would make her father abandon her. What part of that sounds like a misunderstanding? He was trying to help. Stella needed discipline. No, Nora. Stella needed protection from adults who confused cruelty with parenting. She needed her mother to put her safety above her boyfriend's feelings. He's not my boyfriend. I pulled out my phone and showed her the screenshot of her Facebook message. Joel's coming over to fix the bathroom faucet. Then explain this. She looked at the message and her shoulders sagged. Beck, I never meant for things to go this far. Which things? The affair or the child abuse? It's not abuse, and Joel and I never actually what, Nora? Had sex? Because I've got video of you kissing him in our kitchen while our daughter was upstairs crying from being forced to stand outside in the cold. Her face crumpled. I was lonely, Beck. You're always gone, and when you're here, you're thinking about work. Joel paid attention to me. He made me feel important. So you let him abuse our daughter. I thought he was helping her learn boundaries. By terrorizing her? By making her afraid to tell her father the truth? Nora was crying now, but I felt no sympathy. What happens now? She whispered. Now you learn that actions have consequences. We have a custody hearing tomorrow. CPS is opening an investigation. Joel's business is about to tank when word gets around about what kind of man he really is. And you get to explain to everyone why you chose your boyfriend over your daughter's safety. Beck, please, we can fix this. And we can go to counseling, work things out. I looked at the woman I'd married 8 years ago, the woman I'd thought I'd spend my life with, and felt nothing but disgust. Nora, you watched a man abuse our child and did nothing. You enabled it. You justified it. You told our daughter not to report it to me. There is no coming back from that. So what? You're just going to destroy our family? I'm not destroying anything, Nora. I'm protecting what's left of it. That night, after Stella was asleep, I sat in my home office planning my next moves. Joel was neutralized for now, but men like him don't give up easily. Nora was starting to realize how much trouble she was in, but she still thought she could manipulate her way out of consequences. They were both wrong. My phone buzzed with another text from Joel. You think you're so smart? But I know things about your wife you don't. This isn't over. I smiled and screenshot the message. Joel was about to learn that threatening a man with military intelligence training was like bringing a knife to a drone fight. Tomorrow's custody hearing was just the beginning. The custody hearing was a masterclass in preparation versus desperation. I sat next to Jennifer with organized folders of evidence, witness statements, and documentation. Across the aisle, Nora sat with a court-appointed attorney she'd met 20 minutes earlier, frantically whispering explanations that sounded desperate even from across the room. Judge Patricia Morrison had been on the family court bench for 15 years and had zero patience for adults who put their own needs above children's safety. Mr. Shaw, she began, I've reviewed your petition for emergency custody and the supporting evidence. This is quite serious. Yes, Your Honor. My only concern is my daughter's safety and well-being. Jennifer stood and presented our case methodically. Security footage of the abuse, text messages showing Nora's knowledge and approval, documentation of Joel's criminal background, photos of bruises on Stella's arm, Mrs. Peterson's statement about Stella's behavioral changes at school. When it was Nora's turn, her lawyer tried to minimize everything. Your Honor, Mrs. Shaw admits there were some disciplinary incidents that may have been excessive, but she never intended for her daughter to be harmed. She's willing to undergo parenting classes and counseling. Judge Morrison looked skeptical. Counseling is fine, but this child was subjected to what appears to be systematic abuse, while her mother not only allowed it, but encouraged it. Mrs. Shaw, do you understand the seriousness of these allegations? Nora stood shakily. Your Honor, I love my daughter. I would never let anyone hurt her. Joel was just trying to help her learn respect and boundaries. By forcing her to stand outside in freezing weather, by grabbing her hard enough to leave bruises. I thought it was just discipline. I didn't realize how bad it looked. Mrs. Shaw, your text messages indicate you were fully aware of what was happening and approved of it. You also told your daughter not to report the abuse to her father. How do you explain that? Nora started crying. I was confused. My marriage was struggling, and Joel seemed to understand children better than I did. I made terrible mistakes. Judge Morrison was unmoved. Mrs. Shaw, your daughter is 7 years old. She depended on you to protect her, and instead, you enabled her abuse. That's not a mistake. That's a betrayal of the most fundamental responsibility of parenthood. The judge's ruling was swift and decisive. I was granted temporary full custody of Stella. Nora could have supervised visits twice a week, pending the outcome of the CPS investigation. Joel Kessler was prohibited from any contact with Stella and could face criminal charges. Walking out of that courthouse with legal custody of my daughter felt like the first victory in a war I was determined to win completely. But Joel wasn't done making stupid decisions. That evening, while I was helping Stella with homework, our doorbell rang. Through the window, I could see Joel's truck parked on the street. Stella, go to your room and close the door, okay? Don't come out until Daddy says. She looked scared. Is Uncle Joel here? Don't worry, Princess. Daddy's going to handle this. I opened the front door to find Joel standing on my porch, clearly drunk and agitated. We need to talk, he slurred. No, we don't. You're violating a court order by being here. Leave now. You destroyed my life, you bastard. I lost 3 clients today because of your little show at Home Depot. Good. Maybe those families will find contractors who don't abuse children. He stepped closer, and I could smell the alcohol on his breath. I never abused nobody. I was teaching that brat some respect. Joel, you're drunk, you're on my property in violation of a court order, and you just called my daughter a brat. You have about 10 seconds to get back in your truck before I call the police. Call them. I got nothing left to lose anyway. That's when I noticed the baseball bat in his hand. Joel, put the bat down and walk away. This doesn't have to get worse. Worse? You already ruined everything. My business, my reputation, everything. He raised the bat, and my military training kicked in. I'd spent years learning how to neutralize threats quickly and efficiently. I stepped inside the doorframe, grabbed the bat as he swung it, and used his own momentum to pull him off balance. A quick pivot, and he was face first against my porch railing with his arm twisted behind his back. Here's what's going to happen, Joel. I'm going to let you go, and you're going to get in your truck and drive away. If you ever come back here, if you contact my family, if you even look at us wrong, I will end you. Do you understand? You can't threaten me. I twisted his arm a little higher, just enough to make him gasp. Joel, I'm not threatening you. I'm explaining physics. You brought a weapon to my home where my daughter lives. That makes you a threat to my family. I have every legal right to neutralize that threat by any means necessary. I let him go and stepped back. He turned around, rubbing his shoulder, his face red with anger and humiliation. This isn't over. Yes, it is. You just don't realize it yet. He stumbled back to his truck, and I watched him drive away before calling the police to report the violation of the protective order. 20 minutes later, Detective Sarah Chen was taking my statement while crime scene techs photographed the bat Joel had dropped on my porch. Mr. Shaw, you handled this exactly right. You used minimal force, you protected your child, and you immediately reported the incident. Mr. Kessler is looking at charges for violating the protective order, public intoxication, and assault with a weapon. Will this affect my custody case? If anything, it strengthens your position. Joel Kessler just proved he's exactly as dangerous as you claimed. After the police left, I found Stella hiding in her closet, clutching her stuffed elephant. Is Uncle Joel gone, Daddy? Yes, Princess, and he's never coming back. Promise? I promise. Daddy won't let anyone hurt you ever again. She hugged me tight, and I felt the weight of that promise settle on my shoulders. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about proving to my daughter that she could trust me to protect her, no matter what. But the night wasn't over. Around midnight, I was woken up by the sound of breaking glass. I grabbed the baseball bat Joel had left behind and crept downstairs. Someone had thrown a brick through our front window. Attached to the brick was a note. You think you won? This is just the beginning. I called the police again, but I already knew Joel was long gone. This was escalation, and it meant he was getting desperate. Desperate men do stupid things, and stupid things leave evidence. The next morning, I installed security cameras around the entire house and upgraded our alarm system. I also called Carl to ask a favor. I need someone watching Joel Kessler. Where he goes, who he talks to, what he's planning. Can you help? Already on it, brother. Guy's been drinking at Murphy's bar every night, telling anyone who'll listen how he's going to get revenge on you. Perfect. Make sure you document everything. Beck, you sure you want to keep poking this bear? Guy's clearly unstable. Carl, he threatened my daughter. He broke my window. He's not going to stop until someone stops him. And you're planning to be that someone? I'm planning to be prepared for whatever he does next. What Joel did next was even stupider than I'd expected. 2 days later, Mrs. Kavanaugh called me at work. Beck, you need to get home. Joel's been parked across the street for an hour, just sitting there watching your house. Did you call the police? Already did. They're on their way, but I thought you should know. I left work immediately and arrived home just as the police were arresting Joel for stalking and violating the protective order. Again. This time, he didn't make bail. That evening, I got a call from Detective Chen. Mr. Shaw, Joel Kessler's been charged with multiple violations of the protective order, stalking, and assault with a weapon. His bail's been set at $50,000, which he can't make. He's going to be in jail for a while. Good. What about my wife? Is she facing any charges? The DA is reviewing the case for child endangerment charges. CPS is also building a case for neglect. Mrs. Shaw is in serious trouble. After I hung up, I sat in my kitchen looking at the boarded-up window Joel had broken. Stella was at her friend's house for a sleepover, so the house was quiet. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe. Joel was in jail. Nora was facing criminal charges. I had full custody of Stella. The immediate threats were neutralized. But I wasn't done yet. Joel had spent weeks terrorizing my daughter and destroying my family. Nora had enabled and encouraged it. They'd both assumed I was too weak, too absent, too clueless to fight back. They'd learned they were wrong about that. Now they were going to learn that I didn't just fight back. I finished what other people started. The war was almost over, but the final battle was going to be devastating. 3 weeks later, Joel made bail with help from his brother. His first mistake was thinking I wouldn't know about it within an hour of his release. His second mistake was believing he could outsmart someone who'd spent years in military intelligence. His third and final mistake was underestimating how far I'd go to protect my daughter. I was working in my home office when Carl called with the update. Joel's out. His brother posted bail. But get this, the idiot's already been spotted at Murphy's bar, drunk and running his mouth about how he's going to settle things with you. Any specifics? He's telling people you ruined his life, and he's not going to let that stand. Classic drunk tough guy talk, but given his history of actually following through on stupid ideas... Yeah, I get it. Thanks for the heads up. I wasn't surprised. Men like Joel don't learn from consequences. They just get angrier about them. But I'd spent the 3 weeks of his incarceration preparing for exactly this scenario. The security system I'd installed wasn't just cameras and alarms. It was a comprehensive defensive setup that would make our house a nightmare for anyone stupid enough to break in. Motion sensors, pressure plates, remote-controlled locks, and a few creative additions that Joel would never see coming. I'd also spent those 3 weeks working with Jennifer to finalize Nora's destruction. The evidence we'd compiled was overwhelming. Text messages showing her knowledge and approval of the abuse. Social media posts mocking my parenting while praising Joel's discipline methods. Witness statements from neighbors who'd seen Joel's truck at our house during school hours while I was traveling. But the most damning evidence came from Stella herself. The court-appointed child psychologist had interviewed her extensively, and Stella had revealed details that made me freeze. Joel hadn't just made her stand outside in the cold. He'd locked her in the basement for an hour when she'd accidentally broken a glass. He'd told her that if she ever told me about their discipline sessions, I would send her away to live with strangers. Nora had witnessed all of it and done nothing. The psychologist's report was clear. Stella had been systematically terrorized by Joel with Nora's full knowledge and cooperation. The recommendation was permanent supervised visitation for Nora and a complete ban on Joel having any contact with children. But Joel didn't know about the psychologist's report yet. It was being held as evidence for the criminal trial that would destroy both him and Nora, which meant he was about to make his final, fatal mistake. It happened on a Thursday night. Stella was at my sister's house in Rochester for the weekend, which meant I was alone when Joel decided to make his move. The motion sensors picked him up at 11:47 p.m., creeping through my backyard with a crowbar and what looked like a gasoline can. He was wearing dark clothes and a ski mask, like some kind of discount ninja. I watched him on the security monitors from my bedroom, already dressed and ready. I'd been expecting this for days. Joel tried the back door first, probably assuming I'd be asleep and vulnerable. When he found it locked, he used the crowbar to pry at the frame. That's when the first surprise activated. The motion-triggered floodlights turned the backyard into daylight, and the alarm system started blaring loud enough to wake the entire neighborhood. Joel stumbled backward, temporarily blinded, and tripped over the garden hose I'd strategically positioned. He fell hard, dropping the crowbar and gasoline can, but recovered quickly and kept trying to break in. Mistake number 4. I activated the sprinkler system, which I'd modified to spray from every direction at maximum pressure. Joel was instantly soaked and disoriented, but he was committed now. He grabbed the crowbar and smashed the back door window. As soon as he reached through to unlock the door, he triggered the paint bomb I'd rigged to the handle. Bright orange paint exploded all over his hands and face, marking him like a tagged animal. But Joel was drunk and desperate, so he kept going. He managed to get the door open and stumbled into my kitchen, dripping wet and covered in orange paint. That's when I turned on the lights. "Hello, Joel. I've been waiting for you." He spun around, raising the crowbar, and found himself face to face with me and the baseball bat he'd left on my porch weeks earlier. "Surprised to see me awake?" See, the thing about military intelligence training is that we learn to anticipate enemy behavior. You've been drinking at Murphy's bar for 3 weeks, telling everyone who'll listen that you're going to burn down my house. Did you really think I wouldn't be ready? "You ruined my life," he screamed, swinging the crowbar at my head. I ducked easily. Drunk men telegraph their moves like semaphore flags, and brought the bat down on his wrist. The crowbar went flying. "Joel, you ruined your own life when you decided to abuse a 7-year-old girl. I just made sure there were consequences." He lunged at me with his bare hands, and I sidestepped, letting his momentum carry him into the kitchen island. He hit it hard and went down, but he was still trying to get up. "Stay down, Joel. The police are already on their way." "I'm going to eliminate you." "No, you're not. You're going to jail for breaking and entering, attempted arson, assault with a weapon, and violating a protective order. Again, this time there won't be any bail." That's when I heard the sirens. Joel heard them too and tried to run, but he slipped on the water from the sprinklers and went down again. By the time he got back to his feet, the police were surrounding the house. Detective Chen was the first through the door, weapon drawn, taking in the scene. Joel, soaked and covered in orange paint, standing in my destroyed kitchen with a gasoline can at his feet. Me, completely dry and calm, holding a baseball bat. "Mr. Shaw, are you injured?" "No, Detective. Joel here decided to pay me a visit with some accelerant and a crowbar. Fortunately, I was expecting him." She looked at the security monitors, which had recorded everything. "Mr. Kessler, you're under arrest for breaking and entering, attempted arson, assault with a weapon, and violation of a protective order." As they cuffed Joel and led him away, he was screaming threats and obscenities. The orange paint made him look like a deranged traffic cone. "Mr. Shaw," Detective Chen said, after Joel was secured in the patrol car, "this security system is impressive. Motion sensors, cameras, automated responses. You really were ready for him." I told him what would happen if he came back. He chose not to listen. Well, he's going to have a lot of time to think about that choice. With his record and tonight's charges, he's looking at serious prison time. After the police left, I walked through my house assessing the damage. Broken window, destroyed back door, water and paint everywhere. It looked like a war zone. But it was over. Joel would be in prison for years. Nora was facing criminal charges that would destroy her career and reputation. I had full custody of Stella and enough evidence to ensure Nora would never be able to take her away from me. The underdog had won. But the most satisfying victory was still to come. The next morning, I got a call from Jennifer. "Beck, I have news. The district attorney has decided to press charges against Nora for child endangerment and neglect. She's also being investigated by the state education department for her conduct as a teacher. She'll likely lose her teaching license." "What about Joel?" "He's been charged with multiple felonies. His lawyer is talking about a plea deal, but he's looking at 5 to 10 years minimum." "Good. There's more. The psychologist's report has been released to the court. It's devastating for Nora. The judge is considering terminating her parental rights entirely." I sat down heavily. Terminating parental rights was the nuclear option, reserved for the worst cases of abuse and neglect. "Is that what you want, Beck?" I thought about Stella, about the fear in her eyes when she talked about Uncle Joel, about the way she'd hidden in her closet when he came to our house with a bat. I want whatever keeps Stella safe and happy. The hearing is next week. Nora's lawyer is going to argue for supervised visitation, but given everything that's happened, I'll be there. After I hung up, I called my sister to check on Stella. "Uncle Beck!" Stella's voice was bright and happy. "Aunt Lisa is teaching me to bake cookies." "That sounds fun, Princess. Are you having a good time?" "Yes. And I'm not scared anymore because Uncle Joel can't hurt me, right?" "That's right, sweetheart. Uncle Joel is never going to hurt you again. And Mommy can't make me do scary things anymore?" My heart broke a little. "No, Princess. No one is ever going to make you do scary things again. Daddy promises." "I love you, Daddy." "I love you too, Stella. More than anything in the world." The final hearing was everything I'd hoped for and more devastating than I'd expected. Nora sat in the defendant's chair looking like a broken woman. Her teaching career was over, her reputation destroyed, her daughter lost to her through her own choices. The judge read from the psychologist's report, detailing the systematic abuse Stella had endured and Nora's role in enabling it. "Mrs. Shaw, you had a fundamental duty to protect your child, and you not only failed in that duty, but actively participated in her abuse. You chose your relationship with Joel Kessler over your daughter's safety and well-being." Nora was crying, but the judge wasn't finished. "The evidence shows that you knew Mr. Kessler was abusing your daughter and you approved of it. You told her not to report the abuse to her father. You prioritized your affair over your child's welfare. This court finds that you are unfit to parent and pose a continuing danger to the child's physical and emotional well-being." The gavel came down with finality. Parental rights are hereby terminated. Mr. Shaw is awarded sole custody with no visitation rights for the mother. It was over. Walking out of that courthouse, I felt a mixture of relief and sadness. Relief that Stella was finally, completely safe. Sadness for the family we'd once been, before Nora's choices destroyed everything. But mostly, I felt proud. Proud that I'd protected my daughter. Proud that I'd fought for her when she couldn't fight for herself. Proud that I'd proven that the quiet, traveling father everyone had underestimated was actually the most dangerous enemy they could have made. 6 months later, Joel was sentenced to 8 years in prison. Nora pleaded guilty to child endangerment and received 2 years probation and mandatory counseling. She lost her teaching license and had to move back in with her parents in another state. Stella and I moved to a new house across town, far from the memories and neighbors who'd witnessed our family's destruction. She started at a new school where no one knew about Uncle Joel or the discipline sessions or the custody battle. On her 8th birthday, as we were opening presents in our new living room, Stella looked up at me with bright, happy eyes. "Daddy, I'm glad it's just us now." "Me too, Princess. Me too." The underdog had won completely. The people who'd underestimated him, who'd thought they could abuse his daughter and destroy his family without consequences, had learned that some men don't just fight back, they finish what others start, and sometimes the quiet ones are the most dangerous of all.